Okay, so picture this. A major national bank just poof, gone, vanished overnight. And no, this isn't some Hollywood blockbuster. This is a real story about how one cyber attack basically brought an entire country to its knees. So it's a Tuesday, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you go to check your bank's website, and it's just gone. The ATMs, they're not working. Your online banking app, just error messages. It's like a national institution just stopped existing.
The official story? Oh, just an incidente informatico. You know, a little IT incident. It sounds so harmless, right? But what was really happening was a full-blown national catastrophe. We're talking about people's life savings, the entire housing market just frozen.
So you have to ask, how could a simple IT incident cause this much chaos? Well, to get that, you really need to understand what this bank was and why it mattered so much.
Look, the BHU wasn't just any old bank. For so many people, it was the bank, the one that helped you get your first home, you know? It was the bedrock of the whole social safety net. And just like that, it became a digital ghost town.
And the whole time, the public is getting radio silence from the government. But behind the scenes, there was an absolute digital war going on. So what was really happening inside this so-called digital fortress?
Let's be clear, this wasn't an IT incident. This was a hostage situation, a digital kidnapping. A group calling themselves Crypto24 had grabbed the bank's entire network and was holding it for ransom.
And what did they steal? Oh, just 700 gigabytes of data. We're talking the most sensitive financial details of tens of thousands of families. Social security numbers, credit histories, mortgage applications, everything. The keys to their entire lives now in the hands of criminals.
So the big question is how they even get in. You might be thinking it was some super complex high-tech assault, right? Nope. They went after the weakest link, which is always people. They infected at least 930 user devices with something called InfoStealer malware. It's nasty stuff. It just sits there and records everything you type. Yep, including your banking passwords.
And this is exactly what people in my field had been screaming about for years. It's what we call national cyber debt. The country sprinted into the digital age, but forgot to teach anyone how to lock the door. And the result? You can see it right there. A staggering 95% of the stolen passwords were so weak, they were basically useless. I've said it before. They were about as secure as a wet napkin.
Okay, now this part is, well, it's just wild. A week after the attack, the bank's website pops back up. It doesn't work, mind you, but it's there. And if you look at its security certificate, it's like a roadmap to the whole disaster. On the surface, you see Google Trust Services and think, okay, looks legit. But then you dig in. There's no organization info. It's hosted on Cloudflare, which can be good or bad. It's not even issued by a local entity. And the big one, it's directly linked to all those infected users. It was a complete facade, a pretty green padlock hiding a house that was already on fire.
But you know, this whole thing wasn't just about bad tech. It was about people not listening. It was about a warning that wasn't just ignored, it was actively punished. And yeah, it's the story of one guy who tried to tell everyone this was coming.
This timeline, it really lays it all out, doesn't it? In 2017, this ethical hacker, Alberto Daniel Hill, finds a security flaw, reports it, and gets thrown in prison for his trouble. Fast forward to 2021, he's on the radio, practically shouting from the rooftops about how vulnerable the country is. And then, 2025, bang, he's proven right in the most catastrophic way possible.
And just listen to what he said back in 2021. Our country is wide open. Our security is a joke. He called them a sitting duck. I mean, that's not being dramatic. That was a literal diagnosis of the problem. He saw it all coming. The weak passwords, the non-existent internal security, the whole culture of just sweeping problems under the rug.
Now, to be fair, the specific attack Hill predicted was a bit different. But that almost doesn't matter, right? Because the core of his warning, his central thesis, that was spot on. He said the state's systems were fundamentally vulnerable and that the officials would try to hide the truth. And that's exactly what happened. So what you end up with is three totally different versions of the truth. You've got the government's official story, just a small IT incident, nothing to see here. You've got Hill's version, this was a catastrophic failure you were all warned about. And then you have the hackers, Crypto24, with the receipts. Yeah, we robbed you, here's your data, pay up. Okay. So here's the question I've heard over and over, why didn't they just restore from a backup? It seems so simple, right? We all do it. But the answer to that question, well, that's where you see just how bad things really were.
A good network should be like a submarine, right? With sealed compartments. If one part gets breached, you can lock it down. The rest of the sub is safe. BHU's network, it was more like a giant open ballroom. Once the attackers were in, they were everywhere. And that's the nightmare scenario. Because if they're everywhere, that means they're probably in your backups too. So if you try to restore from a backup, you might just be reinfecting yourself and starting the whole nightmare over again.
And this is the kicker, that total shutdown, pulling the plug on everything, that wasn't them being smart and stopping the attack early. That was a panic move. They hit the kill switch after the data had already been stolen. They weren't trying to stop the theft. They were trying to stop the attackers from encrypting everything left. The data was already gone. The damage was done.
And look, the really scary part is that the BHU hack wasn't a one-off thing. It was just the most visible symptom of a much, much bigger disease. It was the canary in the coal mine for what we've been calling the national cyber debt.
Think about it like this. Uruguay was so proud of building this amazing, modern, digital country. But they built it on a foundation of sand. And the numbers don't lie. Look at this, from 5,000 incidents to 14,000 in just 1 year. A government system getting attacked every 30 minutes. The whole thing was a ticking time bomb.
Ultimately, this story isn't just about one bank in Uruguay. It's a wake-up call for all of us. It forces us to ask a really uncomfortable question. When our ambition to innovate gets way ahead of our ability to defend that innovation, isn't every single country, every company, every one of us at risk of the exact same collapse?